The celebrity wing of the WWE Hall of Fame is a controversial topic, to say the least. At worst, it's a shameless attempt at PR and a chance to get some of that sweet, sweet mainstream coverage. Ooh, they love it so. At best, it's a way to recognize pop culture icons for their contributions to the company. Of the 9 celebrities who are in the Hall at the time of this recording, I would say 4 of them actually did enough to merit an induction. But there are tons of other celebrities out there, actors, athletes, musicians, businessmen, and more, who I feel truly deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Because hey, if the celebrity wing is not going anywhere, we might as well make it worth something. So this week, I'm going to rank them the top 8 celebrities who should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. Number 8, Lawrence Taylor. This was a tough choice between Taylor and Floyd Mayweather, who I would consider an honorable mention for this list. On the one hand, Mayweather had the better celebrity match in Mania history, but considering Taylor was in the main event of WrestleMania 11, I would give him the nod here. Though I've said in the past that 11 was the worst WrestleMania of all time, that the Taylor Bam Bam Bigelow match at the end was a reason as to why, I'm not knocking the match itself. For what it was, I thought it was a very passable match, and that Bigelow made the future Pro Football Hall of Famer look great in the ring. I disagree with where they placed the match on the card, but it was what it was. And the match gave the company a lot of mainstream attention, though on a smaller scale than what they did with Mike Tyson 3 years later. LT's contribution to the WWF helped out the company in a major way when things were at their most dire, giving a Hall of Fame-worthy performance at a show that desperately needed the boost. Number 7, Dennis Rodman. Hall of Famer Mike Tyson helped launch the WWF into mainstream popularity in 1998, but at the same time, basketball player Dennis Rodman was keeping things interesting on WCW's side. After being suspended for much of the 96-97 NBA season, the controversial Rodman pursued his hobby of professional wrestling, signing with WCW and becoming the first celebrity member of the New World Order. Take that, Kendall Jenner! Rodman's involvement in WCW gave the company some of that mythical mainstream attention and helped keep them competitive in the ratings war with Raw. Rodzilla performed in a few high-profile bouts between 1997 and 1998, the most famous of which was at Bash at the Beach 98, teaming up with Hollywood Hogan against Diamond Dallas Page and Utah Jazz power forward Karl Malone. It seemed that pro wrestling's popularity reached all corners of the world in the late 90s, and Dennis Rodman's time in WCW reflected the impact that wrestling had on American pop culture and sports. Number 6, Ted Turner. Speaking of WCW, this is probably never going to happen, but how cool would it be if Ted Turner got inducted for almost putting the WWF out of business? Turner, a media mogul and a pioneer in cable television, owes much of his early success to professional wrestling, as the cheap content provided by Jim Crockett Promotions / World Championship Wrestling was a great ratings grab for WTBS in the 1980s. By the end of the decade, Turner bought JCP outright. Turner's loyalty to wrestling and his financial solvency helped give WCW the edge it needed to push on to the 1990s and eventually go head-to-head with the WWF, creating the fabled Monday Night Wars. Turner rarely if ever had a hand in the content WCW was putting out, but if it weren't for him, the late 90s wrestling boom probably wouldn't have happened. The WWF might never have evolved into what it became, not to mention the fact that Vince McMahon has made boatloads of cash off of the WCW name in the wake of its demise. Whether Vince wants to admit it or not, he owes a lot of his success to Ted Turner, and that above all else is why Captain Outrageous belongs in the Hall. Number 5, Motorhead. If Jim Johnson's not going into the Hall of Fame, then at least the band responsible for the other best songs in company history belongs there. One of the top rock bands of all time, Motorhead had a career that spanned 4 decades before Lemmy Kilmister's death in 2015. Even if the average wrestling fan is unfamiliar with the bulk of their work, they do know of their contributions to WWE's entrance theme catalog, making 3 different, equally kick-ass songs for Triple H over the years. The band also performed live at WrestleMania 17 and 21. If those accomplishments aren't enough to get them into the Hall, I don't know what is. Number 4, Muhammad Ali. Let's be honest, Muhammad Ali belongs in a ton of Hall of Fames. A boxing Hall of Fame, a wrestling Hall of Fame, a trash-talking Hall of Fame, a Kentuckian Hall of Fame, a social activist Hall of Fame, you name it. Muhammad Ali's involvement in wrestling doesn't just begin and end with WrestleMania 1, it goes back nearly a decade earlier. In June of 1976, Ali had a memorable run-in with Gorilla Monsoon during a show in Philadelphia, and later that month took part in a high-profile exhibition match against Antonio Inoki. Even though there wasn't much to the fight and it was declared a draw, this bout played a role in the history of MMA as we know it. And let's not forget, Muhammad Ali drew some of the greatest inspiration for his personality from the legendary, classy Freddie Blassie. Muhammad Ali, the greatest of all time and a celebrity who absolutely should be inducted sooner than later. Number 3, Dick Ebersol. A longtime executive with NBC, Dick Ebersol helped the WWF establish its national dominance in the 1980s and beyond. In 1985, Ebersol and Vince McMahon produced Saturday Night's Main Event, a show that differed from traditional programming in a number of ways. One, it was featured on network TV instead of cable or syndication, and two, it brought viewers big-time star versus star matches as opposed to matches featuring enhancement talent. Ebersol was also the executive producer of Saturday Night Live at the time, which led to Hulk Hogan becoming the first wrestler to host the show, as the company built toward the first WrestleMania. NBC and WWE have a symbiotic relationship to this day, from the brief revival of Main Event in the late 2000s, to Tribute to the Troops, to the creation of the XFL in 2001. The less said about that here, the better. Though Ted Turner and WCW helped move the WWF into the 21st century, it was Ebersol and his influence at NBC that helped shape WWE into the company it is today. Number 2. Cyndi Lauper. In my opinion, this is one of the biggest omissions to the Hall of Fame in general. If it weren't for Cyndi Lauper and what she did in the 80s, it's likely that none of the stuff the company's done since then would have been possible. Lauper became an MTV staple in the mid-1980s with her video for Girls Just Wanna Have Fun, which featured Captain Lou Albano in all his hairy glory. From that jumping-off point, she became part of the much ballyhooed rock and wrestling connection, which introduced an entire new generation of fans to what the WWF was all about at the time. Learn more about the rock and wrestling connection in my review of the critical masterpiece, Body Slam. Lauper's involvement with WWE reached its zenith at WrestleMania 1, when she managed Wendy Richter in her women's title bout against Leilani Kai. And who can forget her music video for the Goonies soundtrack, featuring guys like Roddy Piper, Freddie Blassie, Sheiky Baby, and more.
Now why don't you take your face back inside there and make a suitcase? Bye-bye.
Considering Mr. T is already in the Hall of Fame for his contribution to WWE's early success, it only makes sense for Cyndi Lauper to get in as well. Before we find out who made number 1, here are a few honorable mentions. Regis Philbin. An American TV legend, Regis was rumored to be inducted into the Hall last year, but for whatever reason, that never happened. Along with his role as an interviewer and guest commentator at WrestleMania 7, Philbin brought tons of wrestlers to his talk show, Live with Regis and Kathy Lee, giving lots of added exposure to the WWF. And while we're at it, let's make Arsenio Hall an honorable mention for the same reason. Ray Combs. The late Ray Combs is best known for having been the host of Family Feud during the late 80s and early 90s, but he was also known for being a huge wrestling fan. Not only did Combs appear at WrestleMania 8 and Survivor Series 1993, he also hosted a pair of wrestling-themed episodes of The Feud, one pitting WCW wrestlers versus the women of Glow, and another one that featured WWF stars taking on WBF bodybuilders. Shaquille O'Neal. Though at this rate it looks like we'll never get that Mania matchup with The Big Show, 10 years too late, I think Shaq has made enough appearances on WWE programming over the years to qualify, including his extremely brief appearance in last year's Andre the Giant Battle Royal. And hey, he showed up a few times in WCW to boot. The Insane Clown Posse. This one's a little unlikely, but considering the bar for getting into the celebrity wing is comically low, what exactly is keeping ICP out? Between the theme song and their live appearances, they were a huge reason the Oddities were popular in 1998, before their inexplicable heel turn where they joined forces with the Headbangers for all the week. The Wicked Clowns also made several appearances in WCW as part of the Dark Carnival, alongside Vampiro and the Great Muta. Yes, that Great Muta. They even appeared in TNA for a short time, and of course, they currently own and operate Juggalo Championship Wrestling. Though some would say ICP could never get inducted due to the content of their music, they did just induct one of the biggest names in gangster rap last year, so whoop whoop, David Arquette. I mean, he is a former world champion, you guys. And the number 1 celebrity who should go into the WWE Hall of Fame is Andy Kaufman. On the one hand, Kaufman might never get into the Hall of Fame because the stuff that he did didn't take place in WWE or even WCW. I mean, Ted Turner and Dennis Rodman have a better chance of going in than Kaufman for that very reason. But on the other hand, if you're going to have a Wrestling Hall of Fame with a celebrity wing, it's a no-brainer to induct someone who combined both of those things better than anyone else. Kaufman, a star of comedy clubs and the TV show Taxi, took his performance art to a whole new level in the late 1970s, challenging women to wrestling matches in nightclubs across the country and eventually declaring himself the intergender wrestling champion of the world. Kaufman had developed one of the best, most convincing heel personas of all time, a scrawny, nerdy goof with a superiority complex, all bravado but no bravery, an exaggerated parody of a chauvinistic pig who would belittle the women he wrestled. Of course, this act came to a head in 1982 when he feuded with Jerry Lawler in the Memphis territory. Constantly straddling the line between fantasy and reality, this rivalry included the piledriver heard around the world as well as an iconic encounter on Late Night with David Letterman. This feud launched Jerry into legendary status and made the crossover between pro wrestling and Hollywood something that people wanted to see.
You're a as far as I'm concerned, you hear me?
Ironically, Kaufman had originally pitched the idea of him wrestling women to Vince McMahon Sr., who allegedly declined because he didn't want show business mixed in with his wrestling. In my opinion, had McMahon gone along with it, there's no question that Kaufman would go into the Hall. A legendary comic and performance artist who could bend the fans' emotions to his will through wrestling, Andy Kaufman is the most deserving celebrity to go into the WWE Hall of Fame. So who do you think should go into the celebrity wing? Let me know in the comments section below. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.
But Andy wasn't tough enough. Big time wrestling can be so rough. No, Andy wasn't tough enough. So he started wrestling women.